This is Here I Am, Batson and the Batsons by Small Spidey Boy. Chapter 5, An Unfortunate Turn of Events. Summary. Alfred meets Billy, Doc Thompkins makes an appearance, and shenanigans ensue between Tim and Damian. Dick was gone by the time they made it into the infirmary. Not in a literal sense, but a metaphorical one. His eyes were vacant, his thoughts light years away from everyone else. He gently sat Billy down on the bed and turned to Dr. Leslie. His name is Billy, he's homeless, underweight, underfed, and is around 10 years old, Dick told her mechanically. Dr. Leslie nodded and steered him toward the far end of the infirmary. She turned toward Alfred with brisk, precise movements. I need you to run a test on his blood. I need to know his blood type, any fusameta, and any possible illnesses and infections he has. Knowing what his blood type is by far the most important right now, so do that first. If I give him a transfusion without knowing, I could be risking his life on the chance that he's incompatible with what you have here. When the call went out over the comms that Bruce had picked up a critically injured child, Tim wanted to go back to the manor, but he couldn't, not yet. He still had another hour of patrolling to do, and he was supposed to meet Jason to exchange information on a case that they were both working on. Though, because Jason still held somewhat of a grudge against Tim, they were investigating separately. He heard shouts and veered off toward the nearest alleyway, bow staff in one hand and grappling gun in the other. He brandished his staff in front of him, twirling it slowly enough that it wouldn't whistle through the air, but fast enough that he should be able to knock aside any objects launched at him. And then he saw it. The demon brat. The kid who made his life a veritable living hell, standing over an unconscious man and holding a cat. Tim sighed. He was not paid enough to be dealing with this, especially not tonight, when Bruce would be busy and worried enough to agree to just about anything as long as it kept Damian out of his hair and tantrums non-existent. Put it back, he said, collapsing his staff and sliding it into his gauntlet. Put the cat down, we're not bringing home another stray. Damian turned toward him and pouted. This highly trained assassin child was fucking pouting at Tim, of all people. No, Damian, put the cat down. Instead of complying, Damian pulled out the big guns. I'll tell Grayson that you were mean to me. Tim glared right back at the demonic, pouting, blackmailing tween in front of him. I don't care. I honestly give no shits, Damian. Put the cat down or I'm telling Jason that it was you who poured glitter in his fuel tank. He could feel the heat of the Hellspawn's glare. You wouldn't. It was Grayson, and Todd knows it. He might know it was Dick, but that doesn't mean that you didn't help him. So put the fucking cat down, brat. There are only 20 minutes of patrol left, and I am supposed to be meeting Jason in 25 minutes. I don't have time for this. Please, Timothy, he's injured, Damian whined, showing off the injured paw. Tim stilled and heaved another sigh. Fuck, he groaned. You can bring it home, on the condition that you meet Jason with me and help me convince him to come back to the manor tonight. Deal, the gremlin of darkness said, smiling triumphantly. But I want to stop and get ice cream out on patrol next time, and you can't tell Pennyworth or use it as blackmail. Tim nodded, pinching his brow with his thumb and forefinger. Now let's go, he rasped, spinning around, raising his grappling gun and aiming for the neighboring roof. We're supposed to be meeting the Hood at the Battenberger closest to Wayne Tower. Damian nodded and shifted the cat to his left arm, aiming with his right. Back at the manor, Alfred found himself humming to an unfamiliar song as he sat there printing the bloodwork results out. Name, William Joseph Batson. Date of birth, 2/02/2008. Age, 10. Sex, male. Blood type, O positive. Blood data, negative for infections or illnesses. Metastatus, inconclusive. Leslie had a love-hate relationship with the Wayne family. Love because she cared for them deeply, and hate because they went out and got themselves nearly killed every other month. She already worked odd hours without being called away at random times for house calls, as she informed the other staff at her clinic. But then they did things like rescuing kids that no one else gave a damn about, and giving them a fighting chance. It made it impossible for her to be mad at them. The kid she was working on now was one of the street kids that had somehow stayed alive, despite his age. Somehow. Leslie was many things. That she was kind-hearted, hard-working, and a bleeding heart was undeniable. She was not, however, a fool. The 3 parallel claw marks were no normal injury. The scars themselves were ragged and wide, but the scar tissue was smooth and thin, meaning a wide, shallow injury. Oddly, the scars themselves were smooth, with no marks from stitches or staples, and they were an almost silver color against the pale peachy white of the kid's skin. These injuries were healed by someone who knew what they were doing, and someone who had money. The only reason why a scar would look like this is if it was treated by a meta with a healing ability, or someone with access to a tissue printer. Leslie went back to cleaning up and closing the stab wound on the boy's abdomen, pulling out a small pebble or a shard of glass every so often. She methodically cleared away the sluggishly dripping blood before threading the curved needle through the skin and out the other side. Luckily, the wound wasn't as deep as it first appeared, but that didn't mean it wasn't deadly. If it had been just an inch or two higher, it would have hit a lung and been immediately fatal. Whoever this boy was, he was lucky. Extremely lucky. This was Here I Am, Batson and the Batsons by Small Spidey Boy, Chapter 5. If you liked this, let Small Spidey Boy know on the original story, and leave a comment below. Link to the original story is in the description. Thanks for listening.